a hip swing, more muscular turn.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Europe is Coming podcast. My name's Adam Giles, and as ever, I am joined by John Singleton. How are you, John? How's your week been?
I'm good. It's been a pretty standard week, which is nice.
Nice. No traveling.
No traveling, which is sometimes a bit of a novelty, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, nice. Oh, we've got some people on the live. Welcome if you're joining us live on YouTube. And as mentioned last week, this week we've got a very exciting episode. We are going to go over the Mad Fitness Festival 2026 semi-final programming. For those watching, we're gonna focus on the indie stuff. Just because we thought it might be a bit repetitious to go through all of it, but it is getting announced. When's it getting shared by Mad, John?
Yeah, so after the podcast, I think everything's shared to go out. And as you mentioned, it was an interesting thing regarding the team workouts, which we can go into a bit more detail, but how to structure those based on the individual competition as well. But yeah, everything, like all the 35 plus and also the crown, will get released, at least the not necessarily all the flows and everything like that, but the workouts will get released on the Mad Instagram after the podcast.
Okay, cool. And I'll put a link into the description for the audio listeners. So if you listen to this on audio, you'll there'll be a link there. You can click on that to get access. So before we get into this, set the scene. So you get asked to program for Mad Fitness Festival. What was your thoughts going into this? What was there anything in particular you wanted to get across in the programming?
I think it's like a real honor to program for semi-finals after or being able to program any part of the season. Something as a sport, I've watched and participated in for a long time. And I remember when I always thought it was actually quite a big thing that maybe wasn't spoken about as much, but when programming got handed out to the sanctional events, because it was really the first time that CrossFit programming had been like given out to someone else. It was always held internally before that. So I think it's firstly, like a big privilege to be able to do it. I don't know, we have a lot of respect for it because more so than a lot of people, we've seen the impact and lift that impact for better and worse, the effect it can have on someone's life getting to the games. Like some people train a large majority of their life in order to make that point. And so we took it as a big responsibility in order to put together a test that, I think is something that's, there's lots of factors that we can look into, but in essence is like a balanced test over this many events to be able to qualify someone through.
Very cool. Yeah, and I completely understand that. So we've got a few people on the live. I'm sure they want to get straight into the programming. So
it's unusual for us to.
I know. Normally everyone listens to this on their favorite podcast platform and don't normally join us in live. So it is very cool to see people in live. If you are with us live, feel free to get in the comments and ask questions, and we'll try and answer as many as you can. So pulled up the programming. So everyone should be able to see this. Hopefully, I'll try. Let me see if I can zoom in a tiny bit more, just so everyone can see it on screen. There we go. Okay,
we just like to jump the gun straight in and full display.
Straight in, full display. Yeah. So we'll start with indie workout one. Let me. I'll zoom in a bit more just so we can focus on that particular. So indie workout one is 4 time, a 1.25k run, 1.5 ski, 1.25k run again, 1.5 row, 1.25 run, and then 75 burpees over log. And the time cap for that is 40 minutes. Do you want to take us through the workout, John, and kind of what the information and thought around this was?
So this one had already been released, actually. And the idea was, it was to be able to do a longer conditioning event, which is obvious through this. And it wasn't just we had like free reign to do whatever we want to do with the program. We had to follow certain criteria. And I think one thing that's really nice in starting a competition is you can get like mass start events. And we know there's similarities to this and the mayhem that came out. Everyone's starting together. We're going to be able to set up really cool venue in Ciudad Real as well for this event. So we wanted it to be long. We wanted to be able to get a lot of people through at once, and therefore this longer conditioning format plays in well to that with the running. And we also wanted to implement something that we'd seen before, maybe at games. It wasn't so outrageous, but this kind of burpees over the log. And we thought it would be quite a novel introduction until we saw it come up in the first week as well. But I think it's fun to see that there's similar thought processes in terms of what goes into a semi-final workout.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that, I mean, it's funny because you mentioned on the podcast, as soon as we did our review of Mayhem, you were like, oh, we've also got a burpee over log. It'd be cool to see how the athletes handle it as well, and if there's anything that they can learn from Mayhem and put into practice here, or whether it's a completely unique test and we see people experience it as such.
It's cool because there's a reason why lots of new things don't get introduced, and this is why the games has always been so impressive in terms of what Rogue have managed to do. Castro's kind of asked, build me an obstacle course. Rogue just like, yeah, okay, or build me this device like the snail or the pig, or all these different things, and they managed to do it. But it's not an easy task for an equipment company just to come up with these crazy devices, and it's like a testament to how impressive Rogue can be. Especially when you go to when the Rogue event was in Texas, and you saw like these deadlift frames or the roller coaster or wheel dead. We've managed to build something quite cool as well with the log, but it was a push to get there. So shout out to Ruster for putting that together.
Excellent. Exciting to see that in practice.
Yeah, and another thing I would say, like the process. So we program probably for 3 to 4 events throughout the year, and we have a standardized process. So myself and our head coach Chris go through all the brace, go through everything together, and then usually we have an extra person internally to kind of thought check it and proof everything. But this time, because of the this programming ends up going through a lot of people, you've got to coordinate with the equipment, with CrossFit themselves, etc. So then we didn't want to bring anyone else into the internal team, so then it got sent off for verification by the competition team and by CrossFit's team as well.
And you mentioned that there was some criteria to hit. Was there something in kind of the first event having to be kind of a longer workout, or having more conditioning components in it, or something like
that? So you had to have a certain set number of workouts, which was, there was a certain criteria, and they want more or less around that 6 events. Over the years, I think semis have become a bit standardized. So they want you to be able to have something that's slightly longer, contain something that's slightly stronger. There's a classic criteria for you to follow. I mean, and it makes sense when you've followed semis programming for this long as well.
And has anyone tested this first one out? Have you given it a whirl at all? Have you given the first one a go?
Not specifically. After it got announced, we had some people go through. But for those who've been to Ciudad Real, the part that we're going to do on has a bit of sand as well, so that'll influence the running where we go around. And they put a video up on their Instagram to show the track and how it will finish. There's certain logistical concerns as well, like if you have the run at the end, how does that affect judging? How does that affect timing chips? There's certain things that went back and forth in order, how do we get this kind of long workout in, but not have it so that it's taking, volunteers are going to have to be outside for 14 hours. So there was some stuff back and forth in that regard. And they've announced for the team as well that they will do in essence, the same work, kind of shared stations, but it'll be a similar workout.
And in terms of the run, is it on a track? Were you saying, is it on a running track, or is it on a route that's kind of? It's
on a route. So this is a nice thing about the venue, is it has a huge outdoor area that's all kind of fenced off. They use it for lots of different big events. And so on this fenced off area within the venue, you can fit in a 1.25k run. So, and also the run's just going to be one lap, which is quite a fun thing to be able to do.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. Very cool. Nice to follow. Easy to see what's happening as well in that regard. And in terms of the burpee on the log, one of the things I noticed from Mayhem was that they kind of had spray painted almost like lanes on the log, because they had like one big log that all the athletes went over. What's in terms of the log setup? I don't, obviously we don't have pictures of it or anything like that, but like, is there anything similar to that the athletes can expect?
Yeah, so there'll be lanes that they then have to stay in. Is the idea. And they'll be brief, but it's similar. I from the looks of it, I didn't. They put the measurements of the Mayhem. It's slightly smaller than the Mayhem log, so the style becomes a bit different.
Okay.
The height's more similar to what they did at the games in it was the COVID games in 2020, and they had a burpee workout through there. The height's a lot more similar to that height for people wondering.
Okay, cool. And have you got any, what do you think time-wise finishing? What do you think the fastest finishers are going to be finishing this around?
I think they'll be around 30 minutes, maybe a bit under. Yeah, I think there'll be some good runners. And, I think a certain type of athlete will look at this workout and be like, they know. You just know with this long workout and a lot of running and relatively high amount of burpees, how it's going to fit relative to the field. Yeah,
nice. Okay, cool. Very cool way to kick off. So into Indy 2, which is 10 rounds, 10 toes to bar, 10 front squats, 60 for gents, 45 for ladies, and that's in kilos, and the time cap is 10 minutes for this one.
So the thought process here was we wanted something that was kind of easy to start, but really built up. And it's the same. Now, ultimately, for lots of people going through a few rounds of 10 toes to bar, 10 front squats, it doesn't become meaningful, but eventually that volume adds up from, obviously going to 100 reps in total. And we wanted to put that in. So, the pacing we think is going to be quite interesting here. Like, do you choose to go out hot and hope that you can hold on? Or do you end up being a bit more conservative in those first rounds and confident in your ability so you can push the pace at the end? And again, this workout's going to be, the squatters will be very happy with something like that. Like a speed of squats and ability to keep them unbroken. It's going to be, the hope is going to be some exciting races here. We also put a time cap relatively tight. I mean, I don't think it'd be a worry for the top athletes, but a little bit of a focus that, can you finish this going EMOM? Also for people at home to be able to try, like, could I hit this as an EMOM and get through the 10 minutes?
Yeah. When do you think it's going to really we're going to start seeing the kind of race play out? What round do you think that's going to start really kind of coming into effect?
I do think the top athletes are going to have to race from the start, and hope that they can hold on. And they shouldn't ever have to question going unbroken at 10 reps. But I think if you've gone out a bit too hot, then that question starts to creep in a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And is Colton Mertens making a surprise appearance at MAD?
Yeah, exactly. This is the jam, mate. Just the squat speed in this is going to be important.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that it's going to be sort of unbroken the whole way, right? Like, no one's going to be breaking either of these. The bar, they don't want to have to pick it up again, and toes to bar. Most athletes going to be able to knock out 10 toes to bar, I imagine, pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I don't see that being too much of a problem. It just more come down to the ability to race and get through. And that's why I wanted something like that. Hopefully we get some exciting finishes.
Yeah, nice. Do you think the kind of grip or anything like that, like having to maintain front rack throughout the workout, do you think that will play a factor at all for anyone?
I think it can play a bit of a factor. Also, just with the high heart rate for a longer period of time and always having to hold on to something could play into it.
Yeah, interesting. Do you know how many people are going to be able to get into heats for this? Is it going to be sort of 10 and 10 or?
I believe there's a 14-person rig, but I'd have to reconfirm
Okay.
that.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. So some fun racing on this one. So far, we've got 2 that are going to have like some good finishes to them. I think both of these workouts kind of really be entertaining, and that was, I think that's the thing with any of these semi-finals and the thing that I kind of took from Mayhem was like the racing was fun.
Yeah, I think we'll see on the finishing with the burpees on event 1 is going to be interesting because you can gain or lose a lot of time on those last burpees. So you might be able to come in with like a significant advantage. But for people who are quick at burpees and have paced well, they'll be able to gain like minutes in the last set of burpees.
Yeah, for sure. Especially over the log. I saw on the ladies' heat, I can't remember who started off, but there was like this technique that they started kind of doing that was just far quicker to kind of like get up and over the log. So it'll be interesting to see if that sort of technical stuff comes into play on that as well. Okay, Indy 3. All right, 4-time, 18, 12, and 6 dumbbell seated strict press. I'm a big fan of this already. I like a dumbbell seated strict press. It's dear to my heart. And then go into 1, 2, 3 rope climb from seated, and that's 15 foot, and then directly into 18, 12, 6 dumbbell bench press. The strict press is 2 dumbbells at 22.5 and 15 for the ladies, and the bench press then goes up to 32.5 and 22.5. And then you finish the workout with 4 rope climbs, I guess, for the ladies and 5 for the gents.
No, it's in between. So you still go 18 for 12, 5, and then finish.
Nice. So I'll read that again, just in case. So you got 18 seated strict press, 1 rope climb, 12 seated strict press, 2 rope climbs, 6 seated strict press, 3 rope climbs, and then directly into 18 bench press, 4 rope climbs, 12 bench press, 5 rope climbs, and then finish with 6 dumbbell bench press. And there's a 9-minute time cap on that, which sounds punchy to me.
It is punchy. It's the thought process of this workout was we really wanted to get some strict gymnastics work in, or like a great push-pull workout. And honestly, with handstand push-ups, I think there's certain people who, handstand push-ups are almost easier than push-ups. So it's like you can really get away, if this workout were to come up, it's almost like they don't have to think about the movement. You see, the range of motion is so small. Whereas with this seated strict press, you're forced to use at least a bit more range of motion because you have to come down to the shoulder. And also if we do them standing, it's a lot easier to get away with different movement. How do you judge the sway back or people moving? And so we wanted to have a movement that was like going to really test people's pressing under fatigue, and do so in a way that was a kind of a controlled environment, not because the judging super strict, but just because the movement forces that to occur. And it's a fun one to play about with, because once you've gone to failure on these movements, it can become very hard. And so we put the rope climb from seated on purpose at the start. So again, to play into that fatigue, and then it kind of eases as the workout gets on, being able to kind of go to normal rope climbs.
Yeah, and on the seated, are they just sat on the bench for the seated presses, or are they on the floor, or how's that?
Yeah, it's seated. A good question. So it's on the bench. So you'd be seated on the bench. We played about with a few variations of this. We had like people. The trouble with the floor is that flexibility becomes a big issue. So for the athletes who aren't very flexible, the movement's really challenging because they don't have the movement in the hamstrings, they don't have the movement in the shoulders, and so therefore they just end up going out in front. Whereas on the bench, because you take away that movement component, they are able to get overhead.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of the rope climb from seated, so they can start seated and then they can bring their feet in once they're far enough up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And what was why the choice to kind of increase the weight to the bench press? Just because you felt like 22.5 is probably not challenging enough for the bench?
Yeah, rather than just going crazy in like rep volume, we wanted to keep the rep volume relatively low and just increase the weight to the bench. And this bench has been used pretty standard weight. It's for the athletes now, this rep scheme with just the bench and the rope climbs wouldn't be too crazy, but having to do it after fatigue is where things get interesting. And I think it's one of these workouts where someone could be doing extremely well all the way into the last couple of rounds, and then all of a sudden, if they've lost that pressing ability, the recovery time can be so long to get it back.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to catch up on people? And at what point do you think that's going to hit in the workout?
I think I'd be surprised at how quickly they notice going from even into the round of 12. I mean, it's quite a low rep scheme. The 18 seated strict press, I think, is the nice part of this workout. And it kind of, then you start having to play about with it more.
Okay. We've actually had a question from Jack Follow in the comment section. Do we know if the rope is a true 15-foot rope?
Yeah, it's a 15-foot rope. So it's on the Ruster have done various semi-finals as well. And so it'll be on the Ruster rig. Okay,
cool. Very cool. Gang, do keep getting your questions in if you have any comments as well for John on this. So Indie workout 4 is a 1 rep max snatch, 20 seconds on 20 seconds transition. And this is building by the looks of things. So are these set weights that they have to hit 20 seconds to hit the lift, then 20 seconds to transition?
This event was actually inspired or slightly modified from German throwdown. And we've been to a few German throwdown events over the years. And obviously one of the most common events at a CrossFit competition is a max lift or a heavy lift. And personally, I really like ladders. I think they're really exciting to watch. You get cool races happening at the end. There's a couple of things with a ladder. And one is obviously like the amount of weight that you need and the amount of time it takes to get people through. And I think there's another thing with the lifting is that when you have these, just eight minutes for someone to lift, it's really hard to highlight people when they've done well. So it's like all of a sudden someone on the third platform hits a PR or whatever it may be, and they can't really celebrate. Well, they do celebrate, but no, the crowd can't see. Whereas I thought was quite clever with this way of doing it is that everyone gets their, everyone who makes it to the heavy bar gets their big moment. They'll be in front of the crowd and they go through. And then the question is, okay, how do you tie break something like this on these set weights? And the tie break of this comes down to the overhead squat. So, and there can become a bit of a strategy for the athletes as well through this. Like, let's say I hit 130. I'm not sure I'm going to hit 132. Do I take the risk of fatiguing myself more and trying to get a good tie break so I jump on that? Or do I save myself for the 132 and try to push there? So there's some strategic things that come in with the tie break at the end. We had a lot of back and forth with people on the weights. So these are the weights that we ended up coming down to. And for people who want to see, actually, you can go back and watch the German throwdown events. They're on YouTube. They've done it previously with a clean and also with a snatch. And what you see is obviously the stronger lifter, when they have to then go into the overhead squats, it's a lot easier for them. If 132 is your max lift, you're not exactly standing up quick and then going through a lot of overhead squats. Whereas, for guys who are hitting over 140 plus, then, it's a lot easier for them to get organized and rep out in that time frame.
Okay, cool. So if you haven't tuned in live and you can't see the screen, I will read this out for our audio listeners. The weights are for guys, opening bar is 110, then it goes to 120, then 125, 128, 130, and the final bar is 132 kilos. And then for the ladies, it's 70, 75, 80, 83, 85, and the final bar is 87. And the tie break, correct me if I'm wrong, is whichever bar you want to kind of finish on is max overhead squats at that weight. And that's kind of where you were saying that perhaps you have a decision to make whether you go for push it and go for the next heavy bar, or try and get as many overhead squats as you can on that on the previous bar.
Exactly. So, let's say, I'm nervous about the 128 bar, that I might not make that weight. Then what some athletes may choose to do is at the 125, you push for the tiebreak there before your attempt. And obviously, if you make the 128, you jump into that next section, so on and so forth. So, like after I hit the 128, my overhead squats will count at that weight. But obviously, everyone who hits 130 would then be above me in the leaderboard.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'd be pretty nervous at 110, let alone 128, to be fair. In terms of, do you see that many people kind of get into the final bar and then we just end up with like a overhead squat off between, the guys and girls kind of at some of these weights? What do you think?
We could do that. There'll be a few hitting over 130. I mean, it's not going to be like a huge amount in the field, but I think that's where the movement efficiency comes in. We had to choose a weight, and I think that we'll probably be seeing maybe around 6 athletes or so getting this 132, and then it does come down to the overhead squat. This was a nice thing, having seen it tested live before, is that you see that the strong athletes there's a big separator between someone who can hit 132 comfortably and someone who struggles to hit 132 in terms of getting the overhead squats after. This is why we wanted to put overhead squats, not like, some competitions have done burpees or these other things that aren't relevant to the movement, or even a deadlift. But the thing about the overhead squat is you have to be strong enough in order to stabilize after such a big lift.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be really interesting rates. And I don't know, I could be wrong, and I apologies if I am, but I have a feeling that we might get a bit more of that on the lady side of things, kind of with that final bar, than maybe the guys, but I could be well wrong with that. But yeah, exciting one to watch. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I do a podcast with you, but so far I think that these are really nice, and they're going to be really entertaining to watch. I think that's sometimes my criticism of some of the workouts I've seen in the past, is that sometimes they're not as entertaining when we get to the business end. And I completely agree with you on the 1 rep lift. Like, I was watching comp the other day, and they were zoomed in on someone, and they're about to hit their lift, and then they panned over to someone else. I wanted to see that person lift. So I really like the fact that everyone's going to get to showcase their lifting abilities on this. Just quickly going to a question from the chat. 1995 Logitech, sorry if I've mispronounced that, asks, is the rope climb legless? It is not legless, but the first rope climb does need to be started from a seated position, so on the floor. Nice. Keep getting those comments and questions in the chat, team. So moving on, Indie Workout 5. So this is one of those, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to be kind of like one of those interval style workouts, John, where it's 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, then 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, to try and get through this as fast as you can. So you get 25 chest to bar, 50 beaded rope double unders, and then there's going to be an AMRAP at the end of 5 sandbag cleans at 200 pounds for the guys, 150 pounds for the ladies. And you have to advance the bag. What's the mechanics of this workout?
Yeah, I mean, so some of the flows are not necessarily within the workout descriptions here, but there'll be certain flows as you go through. But yes, it's just literally that once you've done 5, you then take it to the next section and do your 5 there, take it to the next section. I mean, people who've watched CrossFit competitions before will have a very clear idea of how that will work.
So there'll be like in their lane, there'll be like a section every round, they'll progress it.
Yeah.
And it's max sandbag reps is the score, I'm guessing.
Exactly. So number of sandbags. We have a minimum work requirement that you have to get through at least the chest to bar and the double unders. So, that is you can't just rest a whole interval. You have to do that minimum work in order to advance the next interval.
Yeah, nice. I like this. I do quite like the versions of this where there is like you can finish early, like the reward of finishing early. However, I do appreciate from an athlete and coach perspective, they are brutal because then you end up having to do loads of extra work, which affects your next workout. Whereas this is more, everyone's still doing the same amount of time of work. So I think it's probably fairer in that perspective.
It's a bit what we spoke about with the programming before, where it's like I think obviously it incentivizes the athlete to do a bit more, but here everyone will be working for that same amount of time as they go through. And the beaded double unders, we kind of had to add some equipment pieces in, so the beaded double unders are there. I think Anjol will be very happy that he doesn't have to do crossover doubles in order to get through. But I think this was another thing. We just wanted the test to be like fun races. We didn't want to put anything that was crazy. We just want to see fun races and have the fittest person emerge. And I think with this as well, we didn't want it to just become about an AMRAP of sandbag cleans, which is why we've got, you'd be accumulating 100 chest to bar and 200 beaded double, so they will become significant in that workout. And
the beaded rope, does it feel a bit more like a heavy rope? Like obviously beaded ropes vary. I'm guessing this is supplied by the equipment sponsor. What can athletes expect from the beaded rope?
It's not necessary. It depends. The ropes are so varied now between the heavy ropes and whatnot. The one thing with the beaded rope is you do have to put a little bit more energy into getting it to move, just because of its design. So I think sometimes some athletes can find it a bit more fatiguing than the heavy rope because you don't have that momentum going around. I think it's a bit athlete dependent on which rope they prefer, like, with the heavy double unders or whatever it may be, with the weighted handle, weighted cable. In this example, it's just those having to generate the momentum with it is a little bit more challenging than just having your standard rope.
Yeah, nice. And in terms of the sandbag weight, what made you kind of settle on 200 pounds for the guys, 150 for the ladies?
Yeah. It's heavy. We wanted something that was challenging. This workout, we had some other ideas at start, from like a sandbag to obstacle and all these things that we couldn't necessarily implement. But in essence, the weight was kind of predetermined by the sandbags that we have. And we wanted to get a weight that was also challenging, because again, we didn't just want to have people repping huge amounts of reps just as they finish this. We wanted it to be a bit more of a strength challenge as well. So that's why we came with the 200, 150, and it's not a light sandbag. There will be, your ability to move the sandbag is going to really influence your ability in the workouts. And as you are pushing the time on the sandbag, you're going to be fatiguing your grip again for the chest to bar and the double unders after. So the idea was there was a bit more interference through the workout.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly for the first maybe round or two, you could start to see maybe some athletes going, touch and go on for 5, but I don't think that's going to last very long if they do. Do you think people will attack this quick singles or try and?
Yeah, I think quick singles. I think it'll be challenging to go out there and start just touch and going.
Okay, nice. So that's individual workout number 5. On to the final workout, number 6, for time. 20-meter handstand walk over an obstacle. 15 cows for guys, 10 for ladies on an echo bike. and then 20 ring muscle ups for gents, 15 for ladies, then 15 calorie echo bike, 10 for ladies, and then a 20-meter handstand walk back over the obstacle. Quick one, this one, 7-minute time caps. This is kind of a fast and furious finisher.
Yeah, I also think that a lot of people will be getting in under this time cap. So to clarify the obstacle, it will be, you know, your classic semi-final regionals obstacle. They'll start going over the ramp, down the stairs, and then finish going up the stairs, down the ramp. We put 20 meters because that will be the total length, and the obstacle or the ramp will be in the middle.
Nice. So from a flow perspective, where's the bike and the rings in relation to the ramp?
So the athletes will go on the start mat, 3, 2, 1, go. They handstand walk up the ramp, down the stairs to the end of the line. Then they jump onto the bike. That should be the next portion. Do their calories on the bike. They then go to the rings. Then do the same coming back. They go to the bike and then walk this time over the stairs into the finish line.
Nice. They finish where they start.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And what do you think the separator is going to be here for athletes? Where do you think the racing is going to really be?
We wanted a workout where, you know, if you're on that fringe of qualifying for the games, you can send it and not know what's going to happen.
Like the Cole Sager workout is how I like to think about it.
Yeah, and there's been lots of these examples at, you know, semis over the years or regionals back in the day where all of a sudden even someone from the non-top heat has managed to come in and do really well, because the rep scheme in this, you know, for these guys, like 15 calories on the handstand walk shouldn't be a problem. I'd be going through it quick. You know, the 15 calorie echo, you know, it's in some ways a very low number for these guys. 20-15 ring muscle ups, again, ability to get unbroken should be fine for the top. And then you go back, same small number, and then you've got to get over the obstacle. But if you want to do well, and maybe that spot's on the line, then you're kind of going to have to push a little bit harder than you want. The handstand walk's going to have to be a bit quicker. You're going to have to kick up quicker. The calories are going to have to go quicker than you would necessarily do if you're taking it easy. You're going to have to fight to go unbroken, and then the same on the way back. And you know, as we've seen, like having to go up the stairs on the last one and kick up maybe a bit before you want to should create some exciting finishes.
Yeah, with your heart rate in your ears after that echo bike.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the handstand walk on the stairs, it's something that's been around now for, I don't know, like 8 years, something like that. So the athletes have got used to it, but it's still a factor that can, you know, if you have a bit of a wobble and you have to start back, it's maybe not the best for the athlete, but very exciting for the fans to be watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this workout, you've kind of mentioned that kind of going unbroken and all of that kind of stuff. How big do you think transitions will play a part in this sort of workout? Do you think the speed of transitions is going to, or do you think it kind of flows and there won't be too big a factor? It's more about pushing the intensity.
Yeah, I think it's more about the intensity. I don't think that the transitions in this will matter too much. Like in the 10 rounds for time with the toes to bar and front squat, those transitions are very significant. Whereas in this, because of the way it flows, I don't think the athletes will necessarily it would be made on the transitions. It'd be more made on the intensity, as you said.
Okay, cool. I know that I'm conscious there's a few people that joined us a little bit after we started, so I'm just going to do a bit of a recap over all of the workouts again. And John, maybe chuck in some any other flow stuff that you think might come up, because I know we didn't go through the flow on all of them. But Indy 1 is going to be 4 times. It's going to be outside. It's going to start with a 1.25k run, then a 1.5 ski, 1.25k run, 1.5k row, 1.25k run again, and then 75 burpees over the log to finish. All going to be outdoors. Cool log setup that John mentioned. The time cap for that is 40. Workout 2 is going to be 10 10 rounds for time, of 10 toes to bar, 10 front squats, 60 kilos on the bar for the gents, 45 kilos on the bar for the ladies, 10-minute time cap for that one. Then indie workout 3 is going to be 4 time. It's going to be 18 seated dumbbell strict press at 22.5 kilos for guys, 15 kilos for ladies, followed by 1 rope climb, which is going to start in the seated position up to 15 foot. Then it's going to be 12 seated strict press, then 2 rope climbs, and 6 seated strict press, then 3 rope climbs. That's going to directly followed by bench press this time, 2 dumbbells at 32.5 kilos for guys, 22.5 kilos for ladies. That's going to be a rep scheme of 18, followed by 4 rope climbs for 15-foot target, then 12 bench press, followed by 5 rope climbs, and then the finisher is 6 dumbbell bench press. That is a 9-minute time cap, And then the workout 4 is going to be a 1 rep max snatch. You're going to have 20 seconds to lift, then 20 seconds transition. The weights are set. So for the guys, it will be 110 kilos, 120, 125, 128, 130, 132. And then the tie break will be as many overhead squats on the athlete's final weight of their choosing. As John and I talked about, if you want to go for it, then you can go to the next weight. If you don't, then you can kind of cycle the bar at the weight you're on. For ladies, it will be 70, 75, 80, 83, 85, and 87 kilos. And then Indy 5 is 2-minute window with a 1-minute rest after each window. In that 2-minute window, you'll complete 25 chest to bar, 50 beaded double unders, and then an AMRAP of max sandbag cleans, and you'll do that in increments of 5 sandbag cleans, and then advance your sandbag, and the weight will be 200 pounds for guys, 150 pounds for ladies, and it's 4 rounds of that. Workout time is 11 minutes. And then the last one, which we just went through, which is the handstand, 20-minute handstand walk, 15 calorie echo for guys, 10 for ladies, 20 ring muscle ups for guys, 15 for ladies, 15 calorie echo, 10 for ladies, and then a 20-meter handstand walk over the obstacle, 7-minute time cap. So if you did join us late, those are the workouts again. Anything to add on those, John? Now we're looking back.
No, now they're out there. I'm excited to see the athletes throw down. I mean, we only have a few weeks. So it's going to be, it's always exciting to see these things play out after you've spent a lot of time going through and debating back and forth.
Yeah,
so
I bet it's
very exciting to see it like being put down.
Yeah, I bet it's super exciting, but also like nerve-wracking, kind of having people kind of test and view these workouts now, and sort of we kind of review other comps workouts, so it's now kind of being on the other side end of that. I don't know that you do that for a lot of competitions, but it's cool to have a semi-final, like you said, and at the top, kind of the honor of doing one.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting. The sport has evolved so much through this type of feedback. I like to think that I'm a lot better at programming, and also now with our head coach Chris, that like together as a team we can do a lot better job than we could have done 10 years ago, and that comes through feedback, watching this play out, learning from this, and then being able to advance it forward. I think this is one interesting thing with CrossFit, and we've spoken a lot about standardizing the test. One thing has to be said: there's this kind of advancement of there should be some advancement of the sport as you learn, see new things, athletes get better at adapting, whatever it may be, that you kind of allow for these changes to occur over the years.
Yeah, exciting stuff. There's a couple of comments I just wanted to get your feedback on. So all sort of the same vein. So one question was, are the same workouts for the Masters? Also, what are the changes for the Crown? And then also, when are we finding out the team workouts? So there's a few people who are kind of wanting to know about the other variations of these workouts.
So we went back and forth. So starting with the team, we went back and forth of should we write a completely different set of tests in order and apply them to the team athletes. We went back and forth, and one thing is obviously logistical. Then the other side of it was, we've already got this balanced test. How can we apply this balanced test across the athletes of 4? So there will be, certain things are different, obviously. as I see. But the workouts will get released, I think, in the next 15 minutes for the team. You're going to have a lot of similarities. There'll be 6 workouts. The first workout's already been announced as the same. Lifting's going to be the same. So we tried to find the quality of getting enough teamwork, synchronization work, the stuff that CrossFit team's famous for, and then also being able to showcase the individual members of the team as well. And then the Masters and the Crown, again, they're both going to have same number of tests, similar tests, but they're going to be slightly varied. The Crown, for example, we tried to not always just push the weights because of the age of the athletes and the upcoming athletes. So the weights will be a bit varied more, and that might impact, like they might be doing more reps or different rep scheme. And then with the Masters, for example, a lot of the 35 Masters are, they're certainly strong enough to compete with the individuals. So we've tweaked that according to their ability as well. Nice.
And if anyone listening is like, that sounds great. Where can I find the workouts? Where can people go to kind of check all of these out? Are they on Mad Fitness Festival's Instagram now?
Yeah, I believe they'll go up on the program Instagram, Mad Instagram, around in 15 minutes or so. So that will be able for everyone to see them. I think at this moment in time, this is the only place you can see them. But in 15 minutes, it will all be out in public.
Okay, great. So if you are watching along and you're like, these individual workouts are great, but I want to see the team workouts or the Crown workouts or the Masters workouts, they'll all be up on the program's Instagram and the Mad Fitness Festival Instagram. I will put links as well in the description of this video, but also if you're listening tomorrow, good morning to you. If you're listening in the morning or the evening, whenever you're listening, but I'll put them in the link in the description as well. So whatever podcast platform you're listening on, look in the description. There'll be links to those workouts. Nice. Just having a look at the comments and question section. There was a question saying, are there going to be any cuts? I'm pretty sure, being a semi-final, there are no cuts, so no one's going to be getting cut from the workouts. And then another question to explain the sandbag. So just to quickly recap, it's a 2-minute window. So you have 2 minutes to complete 25 chest to bar, 50 beaded dumbbell unders, and then AMRAP of sandbag cleans. You have to progress your bag every 5 reps. Okay, so we'll just do as many of those as you possibly can in the remaining time of that 2-minute window. Cool. Please do, if you have any other questions or comments, get them in the comment section. Any other final thoughts on the workout, John, before we move on to a competition that we wanted to speak about?
No, I think it's time to see them play out. So, and as I said, the other divisions will be seeing them in the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, excellent.
And then there'll obviously be more detailed information coming out for the athletes in terms of flow and standards, all of those things.
Okay, excellent. So we've got a competition to announce.
Yeah.
Do you want to share what that is?
I know we're just debating if we can do something with Madrid. So anyone who's commented, even like a random thing, I suppose we'll put the date on this Friday. So let me just double check what day that is. The 15th of May. We'll select a winner from the comments, and they will get free entry and a pass to MadX at the competition in Ciudad Real. So anyone who comments now, you just automatically be entered. Put whatever down. Just comment Mad below, or any comment will be in, and we'll randomly select on Friday the winner of the giveaway.
Are we going to do that on this YouTube video?
On the comments on this video, yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't joined us live, we miss you. So next time we're live, please come to us. It's nice having people live and interact with the show. It's fun. But if you are not one of those people, if you're like, oh, I missed it, I forgot that was happening, and you want to get involved, whatever player you're listening to this on, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us, in the description, there'll be a link to this video, to the YouTube channel. Go and find the live video, click on it, and then comment anything you like. Please be nice. But comment anything you like, and we'll pick a comment at random. And the closing for that will be Friday the 15th, so this Friday. Was there a time, John? Sorry, did you mention a time?
Maybe we select like 8 o'clock Madrid time.
Okay, 8 p.m.
Yeah,
8 p.m. Madrid time. So that's 7 p.m. UK time will be the cutoff this Friday, the 15th. Get your comments in. One will be picked at random, and if you win, you get a free ticket to the event, which is pretty awesome. And you can go and see all these wicked workouts in person. I think, mate, I'm really, like I said, I obviously am biased, but I think these look great. I'm really excited to. Really excited to watch these play out. I think there's going to be some fun races.
Yeah, I do too. And from a spectator and fan point of view, it's what's nice to see. Hopefully, some leaderboard changing round and emerging over the weekend, and hopefully by the final there'll be a few people with a look in who can maybe take a bit of a shot at making it.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Excellent stuff. Well, I think we're out of comments. There's been some nice ones as well about people saying that they really like the look of the workouts. So we've had a couple of those as well, which is great. So thank you very much, everyone who's joined us on the live and commented. And that's pretty much it for this week. It was cool doing a live and having people come and do some live stuff with us on the workouts. Anything else before we wrap up, John?
No, we've got. It's probably like a big couple of weeks for Europe now as well. French this weekend, which is going to be very, very exciting. I think probably in this year's in-person semi-finals, Mayhem and French are going to be the two hardest competitions to have qualified to the games from, especially now with the controversy of Jason Hopper coming over. So let's see how that plays out. So it'll be a fun weekend. The guys are traveling over on Wednesday.
Are you attending? You traveling for that
no,
one?
No, I'm not. We've got head coach Chris and also coach Dom who are going to be over there this weekend for the athletes, and then we have a few athletes competing.
Nice. Who's competing? Should we give them a shout out?
Yeah, we've got Ella Wunger, who's qualified for the games. I'm going to forget the year now. 23, I think, qualified back. So she's kind of slowly making her way back on, and French will be the first big competition she's done individually for a while. And then we've also got Nico competing. He's quite the character, the Georgian. We're going to come up with a good nickname for him, but it'll be Georgian something. But he's flying over and will be competing there, and he'll be one to watch. Like, he's in great shape. And see if he can put himself in the mix this time to get his ticket. He was very close last year to getting his ticket. Nico's been on the fringe for quite a while. He's one of those athletes who is extremely good, but hasn't had his breakthrough yet. Almost qualified a few times. French last year was very close. So, is this year, can he punch it through? And if he manages to do so at French, it's like a good standing for how your level of athlete you are at the games. I think we said that, used to say this for European regionals back in the day, but if you were a female who qualified through Europe, you're pretty much guaranteed top 20 at the games because of the relative level. And I think if you've qualified through Mayhem or French, you're probably like one of those, already in the top half of that games field as well.
Yeah, Nico did really well in the Open. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember we talked about him in the Open.
I think he was like 5th or 6th in this year's Open, and he's done what I think it's just because CrossFit doesn't really travel east so far. Like Krennikov was one of the big famous athletes who came over from the east and did very well, and so that you don't just the competitions that you do don't necessarily get on the radar. But he's been competing a lot in that region. It's easier to fly to it. There's just different things that you encounter, like the visa issues or just general travel restrictions. It's just harder for them to get over it. With everything happening now, it's also getting over to the US is even harder still.
Yeah, hear that. Well, hopefully, again, team, comments for the competition, but maybe also comments for a nickname for Nico. We can talk about that on the next week's episode, and we'll obviously talk about the French as well. So next week we'll be here again live. We'll be kind of talking about French, and then I'm sure we'll be previewing MAD more and more right up to it. If you joined us late and you've kind of tuned in, we've gone through all the workouts. They will be live in about 10-15 minutes on the program's Instagram and Mad Fitness Festival Instagram. And if you are hoping to see kind of masters and teams or different age groups or whatever, they'll also be on there as well. We've only gone through the individual workouts today. Okay. But yeah, I think with that, we'll probably wrap up, John, unless you had anything else you wanted to finish off with.
No, thanks to everyone listening, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you very much, team. And as John said, we'll see you next week.